Right. I will now hear from our first submitter, which is page 70 on our agenda. So we'll just... Sorry?
That's David Hawke and John Bennett.
Are you there, David?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Councillor Scandrett.
Could I just before you start, you've got 10 minutes. That's correct, isn't it? Yes. Organisation.
If you could face that way.
Oh, it's we're all getting used to this, David. So what I'll do, David, if it's okay with you, the 10 minutes are yours to do as you wish, but I'll give you, at 9 minutes, I'll let you know there's a minute to go if you would like us time to ask any questions. Is that acceptable?
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
Great, David. Okay, we are in your hands.
Okay. Oh, well, kia ora tātou. I'm David Hawke, Secretary of Horsell Residents Association, and with me is our Chair, John Bennett, so hopefully he's been unmuted and videoed as well. So firstly, though, thanks for the opportunity of letting us talk to you today. We really appreciate it, even if it is only electronically. I guess we've got 3 points that we want to emphasise from our submission. So firstly is our overall support for the concept of the Netzel Centre in Ngāpunawai. And secondly, we've got concerns about site access. But finally is our proposed solution, which I think is really important. And we also think that the hearing panel has got some at least moral persuasive power over. Firstly and briefly, our support for the arrangement between City Council, Mainland Football and Canterbury Netball. We think that this arrangement is an enormous credit to the three organisations. The centre in its proposed location has the potential to benefit many different communities right across our city, including Horsell, and could remedy an important shortage in capacity for all-weather indoor sports facilities. Secondly, however, is the concern that the proposal as it stands, we think, is only half done. In our submission, we quote from Stephen Barry in an article on Stuff, his confidence that City Council has managing the number of people in the Ngāpunawai area, quote, under control, unquote. We've seen no evidence, either in the proposal or in other planning documents or in news releases, that City Council has even thought about the question, let alone has it under control. So in our submission, we highlight the issues for people using the area for walking and biking. So this is outside the boundary of Ngāpunawai itself, and the amenity effects on local residents. But for every problem, we think there is a solution, and that's what I want to spend most of the time on. So in our submission, we highlight the need for traffic calming on Augustine Drive. So this is outside the boundary of Ngāpunawai itself. We also highlight access off Wigram Road as a way of decreasing the amount of traffic accessing Ngāpunawai from Augustine Drive. And what we think you need to do, and I have to say that some of these have been touched on by staff during the briefing today, we think that firstly, you should approve the proposed leasing arrangements. Secondly, in your report, we think that you should emphasise your support for the Wigrams-Haytons intersection planning in the draft annual plan. So the three of you, the three councillors, have obviously got some thinking going on in the draft annual plan, and we think that this Wigram-Haytons intersection planning should not be one of the things that suffers. That particular planning includes the opportunity for accessing the site from Wigram Road. Finally, in your decision, we think that you should outline a route by which an access road that uses present A&P access under the motorway and traffic calming on Augustine Drive outside the boundaries of Ngāpunawai. We think that this should be incorporated with high priority in the long-term planning process, which starts next year. One of the things that several staff have mentioned is the issue of paying for all of this. One thing that we would remind the councillors on the hearing panel is not to forget the developer's contribution from Wigram Skies and the commercial land in Hayton's Wigram, which we understand is actually waiting to be used. So don't forget that. So that's very much what we had to say. So thank you very much, and ngā mihi nui.
Thank you very much, David. Melanie, Anne, have you got any questions for David?
Just to confirm that you heard Andrew's, what Andrew was saying. Kia ora first, David and John. Nice to see you. Oh, that way. It's tricky. Did you heard Andrew at the beginning talking about the traffic mitigations and plans going forward? And did you want to give some feedback on that?
Yeah, very much. What I heard from Andrew was that the emphasis is primarily within the Ngā Punawai area itself. Our concern is much more about Augustine Drive and the associated side streets. I didn't hear much from I heard Andrew's briefing, but from what I heard, his focus was very much on the area inside the reserve. Now, as you'll have seen from our submission, our concern is very much outside the reserve. And again, from our submission, the traffic calming that has been put in place, while we appreciate it and acknowledge it, there's still a very long way to go.
Right, I'd like Andrew just to respond to that. Sorry. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair.
So I can make a simple comment, which is I'm literally typing an email to the head of transport at the moment to raise the awareness that I suspect we're going to hear this more than once. So
yes,
I'm literally literally typing the email to Richard Osborne, the head of transport at the moment, that this matter needs to be looked at.
Thank you, Anne. Any further questions?
Yep. So does that bring some comfort?
So, David, did you hear Andrew's reply to the question?
And yes, I did. Thanks, Councillor Scandrett. I guess from a residents' association perspective, where we really appreciate that, but we actually want to see, shall we say, shovels on the ground.
Understandable, but yeah, first steps first. So, thank you very much. Melanie, do you have any questions?
No, I just think it's a very good submission, so thank you, David.
Look, David, the real question, I guess I've done quite a bit of traffic management in my time with getting vehicles into concerts, etc. And you're absolutely right with regards to getting the flow to the point rather than sorting the point out alone. So I very much appreciate your thoughts on this. And as Andrew has pointed out, he's already sending an email chasing that up, and hopefully there will be a discussion, more holistic way to look at the traffic issues in the area. So I would really like to commend you on your submission to come up with, look at the issues and come up and suggest some very good solutions. So thank you very much, David. And is there anything further you would like to ask?
Thanks. Not particularly, but I just guess to reinforce the point about the potential for developers' contribution funding to pay for that work.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you very much for your time and for zooming in. Cheers.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Keane. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Councillor.
So before we start, Mr. Keane, I'll just do, as I said to David, you've got 5 minutes to speak. At 4 minutes, I'll give you a nod or just to let you know that you've got a minute left if you'd like to ask the councillors to ask you any questions from the panel. Is that acceptable for you?
And yes, I'll try to keep it to 4 minutes.
Well, your 5 minutes. I'll just give you a heads up at 4. And
I
you can do
appreciate
one.
that.
Okay. We're in your hands.
All right, thank you very much for this opportunity. I am a local resident in Euphrasia Drive. I'm a parent of a current netball teenager and have been a full-time outdoor instructor for 30 years, so I'm a very practical person. Aidenfield is a unique blend of many nationalities covering all age groups with many young families. These community fields you want to give away are vitally important and used extensively by the local community. The value and importance of unstructured recreation and play is well established for personal development. These fields are used by many people of all ages. We already share these fields whenever they are required for large events that are held at Ngāpunawai and the AMP showgrounds. The staff state that extra parking will only be required on 3 times a year. This is already being exceeded. Netball with 10 courts, 20 teams at a time, will require 200 car parks. Plus 30 minutes before they finish, the next 20 teams arrive, requiring another 200 car parks. And this will repeat every 40 minutes for juniors and every hour for seniors. From 3 p.m. until 10 p.m, then there will be 2,800 vehicle movements on a weekday and 3,200 per day on the weekend. These are netball ones, not the other ones. Already, all this travel, picture 2, sorry if I've got to tell that, is all this travel is up and down Augustin Drive, which is designated a local road. The City Council Infrastructure Design says the primary purpose of a local road is to provide access to properties with a traffic volume of 200 to 2,000 movements per day. In 2019, Augustin Drive traffic was recorded at a weekday daily average of 2,027 vehicles and a weekend daily average of 4,034 vehicles. This is already exceeding the Council's recommendation, and you want to add another 3,200 vehicles per day. Your staff say this will be fine until 2028. I'm sorry, this is not fine. The traffic modelling says there will be a peak of 800 people. However, this does not identify that the people will change over after each game throughout the time it is open, nor does it identify the volume of traffic in and out of the area. The new activity will increase the traffic to 4,800 movements on a weekday up to 10 p.m. and 7,200 per day on a weekend up to 5 p.m. This will further be increased when the Rugby League gets their numbers up to their pre-earthquake levels of 3,000 to 5,000 spectators. As you can see from the photo, this road is too narrow for this amount of traffic, and there is no room for cyclists who require 1.5 metres. The staff advise that it is adequate as it exceeds 9 metres. It is 9.2 metres. With 2 parked cars, 1 on each side, there is no room. The average vehicle is 2 metres wide. Picture 3. Euphrasia Drive traffic has increased as it is now used as an entrance to Aidenfield by motorists who utilise the traffic lights to enter Aidenfield in preference to the uncontrolled intersection on Aidenfield Drive with an 80 kilometre speed limit. Euphrasia Drive is only 8 metres wide, so it causes even more difficulty with parked cars. Please do not wait until we have a serious accident before acting. I question why netball want to be at Ngāpunawai and not in the centre of the city where it can complement the existing Hagley Park courts instead of trying to replace the 34 courts with only 10. In addition, it would enable netball to work alongside the new Metro Sports facility, which has 6 netball courts. Shifting to this indoor facility proposed by Netzel may require players and officials to attend on multiple occasions each week. Players will play their game, then have to leave to make room for the next set of teams to play their games.
1 minute.
Players will lose their social interaction, which is vital for teenagers. This is not a formula to grow the sport. Picture 4. If it must be at Ngāpunawai, then I would recommend it situated parking from a major road. Wigram Road is a 12-metre wide plus has a dedicated separate cycleway. The access will
Mr.
be
King,
from an
you've got 30
industrial
seconds
area,
left. You've got 30 seconds left.
so the traffic and hours of operation would not disturb the local community. This facility as planned will overload Ngāpunawai and the local community. Please find a central alternative fit for purpose site. If this is not possible, it has to be at Wigram Road. And as you can see, one local has already voted.
Thank you, Mr. Keane, very much. Do you have any questions from my colleagues?
Kia ora, Wayne. So it sounds to me that you don't feel that there is any way that the transport situation could be mitigated at all. You're not confident that anything that we do would actually help the situation given the volume of traffic.
Yeah, the volume is the problem, and the sheer volume that the netball is going to bring because of the changing. Augustine Road is already overloaded. We have to find an alternative just to maintain Ngāpunawai with the full sports it is. That seems to be being ignored, and I have raised this with council staff on previous occasions prior to this.
Anything further? Melanie, have you got? You heard from council staff that they have already sent requests to the city streets with regards to Augustine Drive and to start that discussion, and also to look at on the long-term plan, putting a bid in for the Wigram Road entry exit. Your comments on that, if any?
Wigram Road is a viable alternative, and to be honest, it's sensible. All traffic into Ngāpunawai should be coming in Wigram Road, not a residential street. As I say, I live in New Frazee Drive. I almost lived in Augustine Drive. I'm glad we didn't. It's just unbearable down there, and I am seriously worried that there's just no room for movement. There is going to be somebody hurt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keane, and thank you very much for your submissions. They're very detailed and very thorough. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris, is that you?
Yes, it is. Hello.
Great. Chris, I'll just let you know that you've got 5 minutes. I'll put the timer on for 4 minutes and just let you know you've got 1 minute left at that 4-minute point if you want to have any questions from councillors. But they're your 5 minutes to do what you want with. Is that clear?
That is clear. Thank you very much.
Cool. And we're in your hands.
Great, thank you. And firstly, hello everyone, and thanks very much for making the time to hear our submission. We are residents on the corner of Augustine Drive and New Frazee Drive. Just before I start, I just want to obviously encourage everyone, and as I'm sure you're doing, to really keep an open mind as we hear all these submissions today. From what we can see from the submissions that were received and what will be heard today, the majority of what we would describe as substantive submissions, ones that have a lot of thought and work behind them, were actually opposed to the location of this facility rather than in favour of it. The first point we want to make is that firstly, we think that the facility is a great idea. We have no doubt that this will benefit Christchurch. It's just that the proposed location of this facility is wrong. The main reasons for this are that we think, firstly, that the site directly contradicts the Ngāpunawai master plan, and in particular, the fact that the plan sought to distance the sports hub from the residential neighbours as far as possible, and that the green space where the proposed lease is in place was that key area of green space which was meant to act as a buffer from the sports hub to the residents. We'd also note that this was the case in both the 2013 and 2015 versions of the master plan, that the green space was retained. And this happened to coincide with the time that the houses along New Frazee Drive and Augustine Drive were purchased and or built. For example, our section was purchased in 2013 and built in 2014 with these master plans in place. Now, whilst we acknowledge that the master plan is not a legally binding document on the council, we consider that it's a very clear and public statement as to the intent for Ngā Puna Wai. We would also note that the 2015 master plan referred to the upcoming district plan change, and in spite of that, it still retained that area as a green space to act as a buffer and to be used for community fields. And that community fields area is still marked on the plan and at the entrance to Ngā Puna Wai today. As you've already heard today, the traffic is one of the primary concerns of residents. I think the stats that Wayne just rattled off made the point really well. We have big concerns about using a residential street, which is already overloaded with cars on busy days, and adding significant numbers of vehicle movements to that. We would also note that the master plans identified McMahon Drive and Haytons Road / Wigram Road as other entrances into Ngā Puna Wai. Neither of those sites or access points have been implemented, pushing the entire volume of cars down Augustine Drive. And we also note that this was the case before this Netsil facility was even proposed. The other issues that we have highlighted in our submission, I think, are relatively common sense around lights and noise and the impact that this will have. Clearly, this space was not intended to be used for a large facility such as this, and it will undoubtedly have impacts on the local residents. The construction vehicles that has also been mentioned today is another concern of ours. So in summary, we think that there are a number of other areas where this facility could be placed that would be better placed even within the Ngā Puna Wai facility, away from residents. We noted at the original council hearing that the main reason that this site was selected was that it could be pushed through under a non-notified consent process, and that there was a donor with a 30 June deadline, which was ultimately dictating that timeline. We do not believe that time pressures such as this should be driving a decision which will have a large impact on the residents in terms of the experience and living in Aidenfield and on our residential property values. We would finally note that the community fields have been a great asset during the lockdown. We also have a few issues on the consultation process, but I think would like to hand over to any questions from the councillors on some of the points we've just raised there.
Thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues, please?
Kia ora, Chris. Can you just give a little bit more, help us to understand what your concerns are about the time pressure in this process, please?
Sure, Anne. We definitely got the impression from the original council hearing that a decision needed to be made by the 30th of June, or that there was some philanthropic funding which was going to expire effectively. And that seemed to be the main reason for selecting the area of land for this proposed lease, rather than what would be best fit for purpose. For example, other areas of Ngā Puna Wai would require a notified consent process, which would obviously go longer than that time period from what we could understand. And that seemed to be the main driver of selecting this location rather than where the best location for the site would be.
Cool, thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Any other further questions?
Yes, I just had a question about the like the visual amenity side of it. If the building was to be shifted either further from residents, or there was other mitigation measures like planting and things like that, would that be satisfactory for you?
I don't think that would address issues, frankly, around traffic, which is obviously a key one. The impact of construction, clearly moving a little bit further away would have a positive impact on noise and light, and maybe some planting would help with that. But I would suggest that would be a relatively minor mitigant for those issues.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you very much, Chris, for your time, and very much appreciate you taking the time to come. Thank you. Just as a heads up to staff, maybe for a couple of questions when you come back to the table at the end, is the discussion on the McMahon-Haytons Road, which is not being used at the moment or hasn't been built, and also the possibility of moving the building from on that site slightly to just to try and mitigate, and also bund and planting. So just some for the questions later on. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, could we also just get an understanding of what influence the time pressure had on helping us to understand the process, and how much of a factor the time pressure that Chris alluded to has perhaps been a factor in the process would be really helpful. Thank you.
That might be a question to actually pose to Netzel, because I mean Chris's point is directly related to the benefactor's requirements. We can certainly comment on the land matters that Chris alluded to in terms of, and he's quite right, simply, that land is zoned for this purpose. Other parts of Ngāpunawai are not.
Well, maybe we take the time in question offline and pursue that, so if it can't be asked by staff. Yeah.
The dynamics around timing for funding is not a staff question, it's very much for the
I guess it's perhaps helping our residents to understand that is important.
Perhaps we take that offline, because we are on a time limit, and so if we can take that up with staff and maybe talk to Tessa about how we verbalise that, perhaps.
Thank you.
Now, I understand that the Kiriru Netball Club aren't online, is that correct?
No, I contacted them.
Okay.
Somebody here who I don't know, could you maybe ask if Janice is part of that group?
Hi, Janice, are you there?
I don't think she hasn't got audio though. No, we're going to have to just, I think, we're
Is Wayne Hawker online?
yes, he is. I'm just starting him up now.
Okay. So good morning, Wayne. Are you there? Oh no, that's Chris.
Yeah.
G'day, Wayne.
Yeah, morning, Tim.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Now, just give us a couple of minutes. I've just got to get to your page, which is page 68 in our agenda. So if we're not looking at you, Wayne, we're looking at our,
That's fine. I'm not worth looking at anyway.
Yeah. Look, now, Wayne, I don't know if you heard me talk to the other guys. You've got
I have.
You've got 5 minutes. I'll give you a nod at 4 minutes if you want to have any questions, etc., from the panel. But they're your 5 minutes to do what you want with. Is that clear?
Yep, understand.
Thank you very much, Wayne. And we are in your hands, mate.
Rightio, since I lodged my formal submission, I've uncovered more issues that I believe council should be questioning before these decisions are made. They include, there seems to be 2 conflicting copies of the Netzel proposal report by the consultant Stephen Barry, and depending on who you are, seems to determine who gets what reports. I'm just wondering why we've got 2 separate reports. Why is it there's also seems to be misleading information going around the tracks, and we need to know what really is the truth behind the regards to have to rush this process through. My other issue is neither of the 2 organisations, Christchurch Netball Centre or Mainland Football, have presented a copy of the new Netzel Constitution, which to any of their clubs to seek approval of that Constitution. So I'd have to question the legality of that under the Incorporation Societies Act. So now just moving into my formal submission, it appears one of the most significant issues we're dealing with is traffic. At the council meeting of February the 13th, Councillor Johansson asked about the requirement of the comprehensive traffic management plan and was told by the council staff member, well, we don't need one technically at this stage, which means that sounds like the council are hiding behind a technicality and disrespecting the residents. And if I have time, I can go into where I believe that technicality involved. Furthermore, at the open meeting held on site March the 17th, I directly asked council staff about the parking. Was told that while there was an allocation of 118 car park spaces, they were not solely for the use of the Netzel Centre. This seems contradictory to what is in other council reports that I've read. Also, that same staffer admitted, we have no idea how this whole setup will work, as we've never had a full winter season with the current sports already allocated at Napunawai. If council staff have no idea how things will work, then surely council need to err on the side of caution and hold back until more detailed information is available. When looking at one of the excuses for the decision to move, for the netball centre to move elsewhere, traffic flow and parking around Hagley netball courts, then council need to accept a large proportion of the blame for those traffic issues that exist in that area. In closing, I'd like to say that anyone involved in this process that believes this location is more central and easier to access is in La La Land. Hagley Park is in central Christchurch. This site definitely is not. You just need to ask the families from areas such as New Brighton, Parkland, Sumner, Apanui, Belfast, or school clubs located within the central area, and who will all have to literally drive past this Hagley courts just to get to this venue. You need full, factual and correct information to be able to make a decision. At this point, I do not believe you have everything required to make a decision that is based on facts, is not misleading or contradicting, and without the need to hide behind technicalities.
Thank you, Wayne. Just with regards to the netball the Netzel question with the Constitution, that's nothing for the hearings. We can't do anything with that. That's to go to that organisation too. Okay.
Yes, but at the same time, you're supposedly dealing with a legally constituted organisation. If their constitution is not legal, why should you be dealing with them?
As I said, that's to be discussed directly with them, not with us at the moment.
That's fine.
Yeah. Any other questions from the panel?
Kia ora, Wayne. Just wondering if you heard Andrew's summary at the beginning regarding the transport issues.
Yes, I have heard that. But when you look at the whole Naipunawai site, in this situation, it looks like that you're going to put a fence at the top of the cliff now, after, and instead of having, and put an ambulance at the bottom. All of this, when, to some extent, while Naipunawai is a great asset for the city, it hasn't been thought out and done properly right from the start. And now we're piecemealing things together. The whole traffic issue for the long term should have been looked at first. More than one road should have gone in there to interest. Using a local road and hiding behind a technicality to not have a traffic management report in place, I think is the wrong decision.
Thank you very much for your time and really appreciate you zooming in to us. We will be taking up the question and following up from the earlier statements from council staff with regards to access to Napunawai and the wider traffic issues. But thank you very much for your time.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Lindley, are you online? Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Just before you start, you've got 5 minutes. So I'll give you a nod at 4 minutes. So if you want to get questions from the panel, etc., is that okay?
That's fine, thank you.
Great. So we are in your hands. You've got 5 minutes.
Thanks. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Much like the other three that have spoken before me, Wayne Keane, Chris Simic and Wayne Hawker, my concerns lie around the traffic, and I've also done some sums, much like Wayne Keane had done, regarding the amount of people that are at going to be attending. And the 118 car parks that have been allocated for this centre are definitely not going to be enough when you've got approximately, and my figures alter probably a little bit from Wayne Keen's, I've worked on around 9 players in each team with 10 courts. You're at 240 players. And that includes coaches, managers, umpires, game officials, and players. That's not even parents that want to come and watch. My concerns with having so many people being there, that there will not be enough parking, but also this facility is going to run at night time. Monday to Sunday is what's been put out on the netball site. And I guess I have some concerns around the fact that it's winter, it's dark, there's going to be plenty of traffic coming and going. There's going to be young children who are going to either have to be waiting out in the cold because for their parents to arrive to pick them up. The traffic really does concern me. I don't live in the area, but the traffic for this facility does concern me. Point 2 is I do feel for the residents who live right next to where this building's going to be built, and they're all of a sudden the green space that they've had now becomes like a concrete jungle that they're having built right next door to them. It'll block out their sun, it'll block out all those things and the reasons why they bought their buildings and decided to live there in the first place. So much like the other 2 speakers ahead of me, I don't not want the facility. I'm a netball person and I do want the facility. I just want a facility that's fit for purpose. And I believe that this one isn't. My last point is I feel that this will be a real disconnect for a lot of the clubs. There's a lot of working parents that have children that play netball, and with what's happened with the COVID thing, there's going to be even less working parents who will be able to afford the money that it's going to take, that the clubs will be given, or the pricing that will come out. And we haven't been told that at all from the centre that I'm directly related to. But I just feel that there's a lot of families that will probably end up pulling their children out of this facility that are playing netball, and the whole purpose is to have netball being played in the area, which is fantastic, and in an indoor facility, which is also fantastic. I'm all for that, but I just think that, much like I think Chris mentioned, maybe it go ahead with the lease, but perhaps it could be moved to perhaps the other side of the park, close to where Wigram Road is, where the traffic problem, obviously that's one of the huge issues that's going on at the moment, may not be quite as big an issue as where it is now in Augustine Drive. So, yeah, I'm like I said, I really want the centre, and I'm all for netball going ahead in the city. It would be great to be able to keep where it is now and somehow use the being next to this Metro Sports Centre. It is central, and Punawai is not central. It's great for me. It's like 5 minutes away. So I guess, yeah, the green space, the traffic, and the disconnect with clubs and families are what my issues are, if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Lindley. And Melanie, Anne, any questions, please?
Thanks, Lindley. No, nothing from me.
I was just wondering, Lindley, if you have taken your concerns to Christchurch Netball about, the number of courts and the location and all that kind of thing.
We were looking at trying to do that at the AGM that was supposed to happen on the 23rd of March, but as you're aware, the lockdown came, and so that was not fortunately or unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. We did have at their AGM, we had a Zoom AGM and we dealt with the immediate business that needed to be dealt with at that time. They have postponed the general business, which is where some of those concerns and questions will be asked, is my understanding. But currently the Christchurch Netball has not put anything out to any of the clubs or about how this is going to work. So until we get those opportunities to ask those questions, we don't have any answers, and it's all you can surmise, and you can surmise a lot of things, but no one has come out and actually openly said. We've been given no information other than there's a Q&A on their website, and they feel that that's answered all of the questions that there are out there. But I can tell you, just from speaking to other people in other clubs and the club that I happen to belong to, that there are a lot more questions that are going to need answers to before we would even consider.
Thank you, Lindley. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks.
And now have we got Mark Beatty? Annette Lucas?
No, she's the next one. I'm sorry, no. That's just,
Mark. I think so. Are we good to go? Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Very well indeed, Councillor Scandrett. Thank you.
So you've got 10 minutes, and what I'll do is at 9 minutes, I'll give you a 1 minute call. So if you want to get questions from the panel, is that okay with you?
Absolutely fine. Yes, it shouldn't take me that long, so that might ease up a little bit of time pressure for everybody.
Oh, Mark, we are in your hands.
Thank you very much. Thanks again for the invitation to participate this morning, and good morning to all the other people online. Hope everything is going well. Look, Canterbury Hockey doesn't support, as it stands, the proposal for the lease of the land for the proposed Netzel site, due to the potential impact that we anticipate it will have on the Ngāpunawai Sports Hub as an entity. That is our primary concern. There's essentially two areas where we are concerned about the proposal. One's a very simple physical aspect, and a lot of those physical implications have already been identified in previous submissions this morning, and they're fairly clear and obvious. The other one that we are probably more concerned about is the relationship and management side, or the impact that the lease of the land for Netzel proposal will have on Ngāpunawai as a functioning sporting hub. We're all acutely aware, or I suspect most of us will be acutely aware, that the city has put a lot of money into developing this world-class facility, and we should be very proud as people of our city to have a facility where we can have international events in hockey, rugby league, tennis, athletics, and it's wonderful. Just to go over those two things, the physical impact, just to touch on some of them, and we identified it in our submission, the disruption to the functioning Ngāpunawai facility during the course of construction could potentially be bad for the Ngāpunawai brand and not a good look for anybody. The impact on traffic management and car parking, that's already been well discussed this morning. The visual impact of the proposed building, which, to put it in very simple terms, is a kind of a warehouse-like structure, which, to our way of thinking, is probably not the best entrance signature for a facility of this standard. And then, of course, the open space nature of Ngāpunawai, and that's also been discussed by other parties this morning, that perhaps putting a building in that area is not good for the open space nature. So there's some of the physical things that we are concerned about. But more importantly, this relationship and management scenario is what we are really concerned about. And fundamentally, the development of Ngā Pūnawai was centred around some governance documents which were put together by extensive discussion by a number of very highly qualified people to ensure that Ngā Pūnawai firstly got off the ground figuratively and then got off the ground and out of the ground physically, and then it was developed, completed, and then managed. Now, these documents that I refer to, they govern what, or they determined what the various parties brought to Ngā Pūnawai, and they now govern the obligations of parties at Ngā Pūnawai. To get to this point, it's taken considerable time and effort by the founding four sports, which are hockey, rugby league, tennis and athletics, and the Christchurch City Council and other parties who are also involved, which include the Ngā Pūnawai Trust, which is a very important entity. The combined agreement to get to where we've got to now has taken a massive amount of energy, and I can't state highly enough what it has taken. But anyone that's been involved, including council staff, will fully appreciate what I'm talking about. So to have a new party come in to the Ngā Pūnawai complex, it is very, very important that that party understands what the obligations are around culture, expectations, etc. And what concerns hockey is that as things are sitting at the moment, there appears to be a very strong misalignment with the underlying principles and values which are being exhibited at Ngā Pūnawai. So that, for hockey, is seen as a major source of concern as to how Ngā Pūnawai actually progresses from here. And I would really urge the councillors on the panel, and everybody in fact, not to underestimate the importance of that mix and understanding of what's needed. Because at the end of the day, physical buildings are just bricks and mortar, but relationships and management take a lot more than that. And it's really, really important that everybody is on the same page before we turn the first sod of soil, if in fact that is to happen. Okay, so to that end, unless there's a really strong alignment and there is a very and that is articulated clearly, and it is all agreed with the existing Ngā Pūnawai structure, then I think we could be entering into very dangerous ground, and that would not be good for anybody that's on this call, including obviously the council, who are putting a lot of money into it. They want to see, I'm sure, the very, very best facility being efficiently managed, and we don't need brand damage, because that's no good for any of the sports or any entity involved. So that's pretty much encompasses or summarise what I was saying in our proposal. I'd probably just finalise by saying hockey would find it difficult to understand how the Netzel proposal, as tabled, complements the what is actually in place at Ngā Pūnawai now. So we would struggle to actually get our head around that. A lot of work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Just a question. Has Canterbury Hockey approached Netzel for a discussion at any?
No, we haven't.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, kia ora, Mark. Just to clarify, so your concern is that the granting of this lease to this organisation would undermine the work that's been done in building a governance structure that is fundamental to the way that Ngā Pūnawai is working?
No, it's a great question, and I think it's very important to clarify it. No, I'm not saying it will undermine it. What I'm saying is that it's taken a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of discussion to get to where we have got to now, and it's important that we keep on, that Ngā Pūnawai continues with the momentum that we have developed, and for that to happen, we can't have parties acting outside what has been agreed by the founding parties. So we all need to be on the bus together, all heading in the same direction. If we have somebody that's, or any one entity behaving differently, it compromises Ngā Pūnawai quite significantly. And that's why, Councillor, I stress the need for significant further discussion before this proposal goes ahead, because there is so much detail that has to be addressed that will trip us up. And I think we can all speak. I'm sure that anyone who's been around the Ngā Pūnawai table to date, with hand on heart, would agree with what I'm saying, that we need to examine detail. We've got to make sure that everybody is on the same page. We don't need surprises down the track. It is the worst thing for the brand of Ngā Pūnawai.
Thanks for the clarification.
Melanie, have you got any?
Well, thank you for that. I had some questions around the point about capital. So I'm not really clear actually about what capital the other sports in Canterbury Hockey have put in so far into Ngā Pūnawai. And I was wondering if you could explain a little about the operational responsibilities you have, like what sorts of things that covers, and yeah, could you give some information?
Sure. It's quite a complex question, Councillor, to be fair. But just in context, the parties, the founding parties or founding sports, I should say, all brought to the table, or brought to the development, a different level of contribution. I'll speak for Canterbury Hockey, and we have contributed a significant sum, a number of millions of dollars to Ngā Pūnawai on the basis that we were going to have some outcomes which were all agreed in these founding documents that I spoke to earlier. And we are making very good progress along that. And as I say, it has not been easy, but we are getting there. So there's that. Then there's the ongoing management issues with Ngā Pūnawai, and obviously we pay our way. We pay what we have to pay to use the facility, which is all absolutely fine. It's what we all agreed to. However, we can't introduce our own capital into the project and build our own facility. One issue that Canterbury Hockey has currently, or one challenge it has, is that we would like to be setting up a really good functional home of hockey as an administration facility at Ngā Pūnawai. However, because of the documents and the founding documents that we've all agreed to, we can't actually introduce our own capital and build something out there for our use. So it's a little bit, I guess it's a little bit against the grain to see an entity coming in who's saying, hey, we're just going to stick a building up down in the corner and, you know, at the entrance there, and we're allowed to do it. Well, just need to be careful about how that sort of decision might impact on in the minds of those existing founding sports and other parties.
Thank you very much, Mark. We do have to move on, and thank you very much for your time, and perhaps there are some follow-up questions to staff at the end of the hearings, Mel. Cool. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Councillor Sandra. Thanks.
Look, we are going to go back to Kiriru Netball Club. David Palamo has had difficulty getting on, so we will go back, and they are page 84 on your submissions. If we can. Are we there? No?
Just give us one second, sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Just
Good morning, David. Are you there? No, that's Mark.
no, he's showing us being there.
Good morning, David.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
Hi, David.
Good, thank you.
Can you see us?
No, I can't,
Sorry, my
but I can hear you.
Good on you. Hey,
That's okay. I can just talk.
well, David, my name's Tim Scandrett. I'm a city councillor, and I'm chairing the hearings panel. And on the hearings panel, you have Councillor Anne Galloway and Councillor Melanie Coker. So you have 10 minutes to talk to us. But what I've been doing with the others is at 9 minutes, I'll give you a heads up that there's a minute left. And so you can stop there or wind up to have any questions asked of you. Is that okay?
Okay, I won't need 9 minutes, so
Great.
I can. Will I just start talking?
Yes, you start now. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I have a few concerns for our club, Kiruru. We are a lot of our young players that play. They belong to working families. Both parents work. They've got maybe more than one child playing netball on a Saturday. Saturday netball suits them because of the fact that they can go from the one-stop venue. All their children can go and play. They don't have to go backwards and forwards. That doesn't affect their work because they work during the week. Saturday's is their free day. By changing it to a venue where I did notice that they're saying that they were going to have the school grade straight after school. Well, that's going to limit some children's ability to play the sport because they just won't be able to. Their parents will not be able to get them there. They're so used to it, they have to work. It means taking time off work, losing money, blah, blah, blah. Whereas at the moment, everything's central. All the games are on the Saturdays. The whole family can go along there. There's no drama. And they can play their sport. We just feel by going throughout the week for all the grades, which is probably one of the only cities in New Zealand that does that, the grades that are played during the week are mainly senior grades, not children. It means they might have to give up another activity that they already have. So then the parent has to choose, what are they going to do? So it's going to limit the number of children that can actually play netball because of the fact that it's been taken away from the weekend. And then also in our club, we have a lot of people that attend churches. And it has been said that there may be games some clubs may need to look at playing on a Sunday. Well, that's just not viable. You've got to can't choose sport over religion, blah, blah, blah. But we just feel that also we haven't really been consulted enough by the netball board. We've had very little interaction with the netball board. No one seems to know what's going on. And this is a bit of a worry. Our club's been involved in netball for over 30 years in Christchurch, and we just feel that the information we're getting for 2 years down the track, it's not adequate. The other thing is that we just feel there could be a health and safety issue here. You go all the way from one side of the town to the other. You've got to drop your kids, you've got to get through this. They're saying about after school. Well, I'm not sure, but if you've driven through the city between 4 and 6, it's a nightmare. So there's the hassle. Traffic congestion on Lincoln Road now is a nightmare. What's it going to be like further down the track? People are going to miss games. They have to do umpiring on as well. But the logistics of it for a family is just not practical. It's going to put more stress on in an atmosphere that already has a lot of stress in it. You've got young families, they're budgeting, they're working, they've got other commitments. At the moment, a lot of families in our club, it fits them perfectly Saturday. But by taking it away and making them go from one side of town, Hagley Park's very central. It's central to all the suburbs, but taking it right to the edge, it just means you have to go all the way one side to the other. It just puts so much stress on families that really is not there at the moment, and it's just to play this one sport. But some of them might have to leave their children there. They might have to get other ways of leaving them at this new venue, and then they pick them up after work. Going to have these kids running around. You know, in the winter it gets dark at 5:30. We'll have them running around waiting on their parents all the way out there. That doesn't happen at the moment. There's no safety issue. The parents are with them at the netball court at the moment. They look after them. It's putting extra stress on families. And to be quite honest, I mean, expecting a 10 or 11-year-old to wait in the dark to get picked up by a parent who could have been held up at work or by traffic, I'm not sure if that's acceptable. But the other factor is that, as I say, our club's got a lot of working people in it. We're concerned the fees are going to go up. And sport is supposed to be there for New Zealanders to enjoy at a reasonable price. It shouldn't only be for people who have the income to afford it. So that's basically where we're coming from. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from my fellow panel members?
No, not from me.
No, look, we've got no questions for you. Thank you very much for your submission. Just to, at the beginning of the hearing, council staff made some comments with regards to taking steps to look at mitigating traffic issues. So I don't know if you heard of those, but be rest assured that those issues have been raised and a number of others, which will be discussed again later on. But thank you so much for your time.
Yes. Oh, just on that note, if I've got a wee second, is that we did discuss that with some of the parents. They said they'd still have to lose money by dropping their child off. And then if they've got 3 kids who play netball and they're on 3 different nights, the cost is just ginormous. Which at the moment, there's only 1 visit.
Thank
you. Do you understand what I mean? They go to the net.
Yep, we do. And thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Good morning, Peter and Annette. Thank you very much for your time this morning and zooming in. So I don't know if you heard, you've got 10 minutes, so what I will do is I will give time 9 minutes, then give you a heads up. You've got a minute left if you have any want any questions from the panel. Is that clear? Yep. I'll just remind you who's on the panel. I'm Councillor Tim Scandred, I'm chairing. On my right we have Councillor Anne Galloway and Councillor Melanie Coker. Okay? We're in your hands for the next 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Annette and I are 2 of the 6 trustees of the Ngāpunawai Sports Hub Trust. Interestingly, a lot of the things that we're going to talk about have already been touched upon by Mark Beatson for Canterbury Hockey, who spoke very eloquently earlier. As a starting point, the trust sits as a high-level strategic and planning advice entity in the Ngāpunawai hierarchy. It sits beside the council and is intended to advise the council on those high-level matters. The trust has a strategic plan. It has 3 strategic pillars. They are the sports, the community, and the future. For the sports, it's primarily advocating for the founding sports. For the community, it's the usage of the facilities for the community benefit. And for the future, it's focusing on potential stage 2 development and also new sports coming into the complex. Germanely, over the several years of evolution of Ngāpunawai prior to its completion, there evolved a partnership model among the founding sports based on underpinning principles. Those commitments among the sports with the council are contractual. They are in 4 key documents. funding and allocation agreement, the escrow deed, the deed of trust, and most particularly for this purpose, the SMAP. All 4 RSOs signed this suite of documents, and that is the contractual commitment to Ngā Pūnawai. Key aspects of those documents are, firstly, and significantly, the alienation of capital funds by all 4 sports into the entity. Significant sums, as Mark spoke of, some millions for hockey, over $1 million for tennis, for example. And this we understand is unique in New Zealand, the alienation of those funds. The corollary of that alienation is the reservation of usage rights under the SMAP agreement. And all 4 sports were happy to go with that because it enshrined their rights to use their code-specific facilities for the future. Thirdly, the relationship's based on one of partnership and collaboration. That's set out in the SMAP. And equally significantly, there's deference to the Ngā Pūnawai entity for wider usage issues for the facilities and for dealing with matters such as major events, so that the codes are not autonomous in terms of their code-specific facilities. In the council submission, it didn't seem to touch on these matters set out in our submission, but it did refer to the management plan and the vision in the management plan. Now, that vision is a very widely stated vision of developing, managing and promoting the area as a prominent Christchurch rural metropolitan park. But that, of course, must be informed very much by the suite of documents to which I've referred, which contractually enshrine the principles that we've set out, and specific regard must be had to those contractual documents. And so when the trust is asked to submit, then it must record that the Netzel proposal does not fit into these principles at any level. In this proposal, the funds are not alienated to the common entity. Netzel would own its own buildings. Canterbury Hockey doesn't own the hockey fields. Canterbury Tennis doesn't own the tennis courts. Netzel would have a lease of its premises. The other codes don't have leases of the facilities that they use. Ngā Pūnawai wouldn't have dominion over those facilities for the wider purposes, the community purposes. And one example is possibly hosting a community event such as a Pacifica Festival. Now, the Netzel proposal would not be part of that, but it also would inhibit the trustees in terms of advising in regard to those matters. And also, from the other facilities, there's the ability to derive income when the sports have not chosen to use those times for their purposes. Here, under the Netzel proposal, it would derive all income from usage, or what usage might be available when those facilities are not being used for those specific codes. So the trust is not commenting on the wider issues around the proposal. That's for others to comment on. This submission is focused on the fundamental principles which we felt compelled to draw to the hearing panel's consideration. But significantly, it also reflects the views of the 4 founding sports who have each endorsed the submission. And you've heard Mark Beatson speak for Canterbury Hockey. It is open to netball, as indicated in our submission, to reshape its proposal so as to align with the 4 sports and these fundamental principles. Alienation of capital may not be possible or practical, but the protection of rights and usage should be under a SMAP agreement rather than a lease. A lease may be necessary, but the dominant document should be a SMAP, which would have some degree of alignment. And under that SMAP, there would be the waiving of the autonomy that underpins the proposal at present. But also there would be deference to Ngā Pūnawai for the ability for future planning, for resolution of key pressure issues that Annette will talk about shortly, and the juggling of major events, clashes and the like. So some progress in that regard might be seen as some movement towards key alignment initiatives, but they probably would not remedy the disconnect that arises by private asset ownership and lease rights, which the proposal entails. Thank you. I would hand over to Annette now for her part.
Cool. Thanks, Peter, and Morena, everybody. I was just wanting to labour some strategic considerations that the Trust finds itself in. Further, firstly, the proposed location restricts further development on the site. And as Peter has outlined, that green space can be well used by the community, and that will be severely restricted if the lease was to go ahead. You've heard about the car parking issues. One of the successes of Napunawai is that it's been very busy from day one, and the area that is outlined for the lease is actually where the overflow parking goes, particularly when there's a major event. So there's definitely an issue there that needs to be seriously reviewed. The number of events that are happening at Napunawai is fantastic, but what it does mean is that SMAP agreement is critical in how they are prioritised, because what it means is if there's an event on site, for example, the New Zealand Track and Field Championships that were held in March, the other users on the site agree not to have events and quieten the site down so that event can occur. So what we see with just an autonomous lease is an inability to allow facilitation for a whole of hub process around some of those sorts of issues. I noticed in the recommendation to council that reference is made to NETSL working collaboratively with other sporting groups, contributing, raising awareness and participation across all of the sports, and being able to use and contribute to the infrastructure. As an independent lease, the Trust doesn't see how this could be facilitated, and if a lease was granted, we would ask that it be subservient to the SMAP agreement that Peter has outlined, and making NETSL a contractual partner on site. That is the only way to ensure the achievement of those objectives outlined in that recommendation. Finally, sport and recreation has changed dramatically since COVID. Change is necessary, and one thing is for sure is that greater cross-collaboration between sports is going to be pivotal in ensuring that sport and rec can be delivered effectively, not in terms of cost, resource, but also new ways of doing things. Napunawai is unique. Its partners have already started on a partnership journey that looks to cross-collaborate, and what we want is the ability for the model to be enhanced and strengthened so that any new sport or development on site is bound by the principles of partnership and collaboration that already exist at Napunawai. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Is there any questions from my fellow Anne?
Kia ora, Peter and Annette. Just if the lease was granted, would there be opportunity then to have these discussions with NETSL going forward in terms of how to work together and all the issues that you've raised?
I think whatever happens, it's compelling that those discussions continue. We have met a couple of times with the NETSL principals. We've spoken about these very issues, and there is certainly an expressed willingness on their part to be part of the partnership in the general sense. The question is, of course, can that be achieved in detail?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your time this morning. Cheers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, Ross. Could you please turn your video on? It's Tim Scandrett here. Are you with us, Ross? Are you there? Good morning, Ross. Ross, could you please turn your video and audio on, please?
He's not muted, so he should
Ah.
be talking.
Sorry, Ross, we can't hear you if you are talking.
I wonder if his computer's muted.
Hello, Ross. Yeah, look, we are scheduled to be back at 11:50, and and we'll just have to squeeze Ross in wherever we can when we start back. He may come up first if we've got hold of him. Is that okay? So we'll plan. So we will have a break until 11:50. So thank you all very much.